we kill our bodies to do it. We put everything into our businesses. And because it's done with passion, you know, if you love what you do, you wake up always excited to do it. And that's kind of a challenge that you give yourself. So this guy was like, my wife wants this bag. She's desperate for this bag. I'll sell it to you. And I literally emptied the contents of my handbag in a doggy bag and sold it to him on the spot. And I never really looked at it as my sex, race, or gender, or anything like that. I've never really seen it as that, and I never put that as an obstacle. And I think people are really receptive. I think the world has changed. And again, it's removing myself from that bubble.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Inspire Pod with myself, Karam Kang, where we bring you the best interviews with leading business people and entrepreneurs within their field. Today's guest had a background in property investment, working in law and advising leading luxury platforms. She was in a meeting with a client who spotted a rare Hermes Kelly bag and offered to pay her double the price as a gift to his wife. This then sparked the idea of Luxury Promise, which she founded in August 2016. Luxury Promise specializes in buying and selling pre-loved luxury goods. She has since opened up operations in London and Dubai and recently secured funding of over £3 million in a market which is expected to grow from $24 billion to $51 billion in 2023, estimated by Global Data. Today's guest is none other than Sabrina Sadiq. Hi Sabrina, how you doing? You right?
Hey, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, it's great. I should take you along to my meetings for pitch decks.
Yeah, we'll just record that and keep it on play. But thanks so much again for doing this episode. Really excited to have you on. And congratulations.
No, thanks for having me.
No worries. Congratulations on the recent funding as well. I'm sure it's a really exciting time for yourself and Luxury Promise.
Exciting and busy times in an uncertain world at the minute, but yeah, there's lots to do, and yeah, it's an amazing time at the same time as well.
Great. And yeah, we've seen such a great growth across reselling platforms as well. So it seems like great market to be in. And before we go in depth in a few questions, can you give us a bit of a background to yourself and your journey prior to Luxury Promise?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it all began, I've always, like most women, really loved nice handbags. Who doesn't? And it probably started actually when I went to law, studied law at Westminster University. So I was always in Oxford Circus, walking around all the shops, browsing down Bond Street, and really was like, did a lot of window shopping back then when you're a student, and was like, wow, these bags are amazing. So it kind of like sparked the idea that one day, how will I ever get a bag like this? And so, coming from Asian parents, do your study hard, become a good lawyer. And then I love studying. I love the studying part, but I didn't really like doing the legal, anything work related to it. So it kind of started when I just first started my training contract, and I really wanted to treat myself to like a nice designer handbag, and I couldn't really afford to get one full price. So I managed to pick up one when I was traveling in Switzerland. I walked into a secondhand shop. I call it pre-loved because they've been loved by someone else before. And I walked into a pre-loved store and was like, wow, this is the bag I want. And it's like less than like 70% off retail. This is amazing. So I picked up this nice designer handbag, which is an Hermes Kelly, which is one of the most hardest and rarest handbags and most expensive handbags to get hold of, together with the Birkin. So I took that bag with me out to a meeting, and then my client was like, how did you get this? Like, because you can't just walk in and get an Hermes Kelly. For those of you the guys that are listening, or maybe someone who's not familiar with the Birkin or a Kelly, you can't just walk into the store to get it. You have to be on a waiting list or a wish list. And basically, I walked in and was able to get one. So this guy was like, my wife wants this bag. She's desperate for this bag. I'll sell it to you. And I literally emptied the contents of my handbag in a doggy bag and sold it to him on the spot. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go into the store and get some more. And then realized that I was actually really good at finding these deals and then selling them to friends and family. But I really wanted to know what I was buying was authentic. So the authenticity part of Luxury Promise was really, well, not of Luxury Promise, but of what I was dealing in was really key. And probably being very studious. I really studied all the bags I was buying. I was looking at how they were made. How do you check if they're fake? Because there's hundreds. The counterfeit market is, $1 trillion market of counterfeit goods. So you have to always make sure what you're buying is like the real deal. And when I investigated the fakes and saw how good they were, I got really scared to know what I was buying was real. So kind of that's how I really got into it, actually, was more on the authenticity side, rather than just buying a bag and selling it. I really wanted to make sure that what we were doing, what I was doing, was the real deal. And then realize that I could actually share those expertise with other people. But then at the same time, still realize that people still weren't doing this right. People don't know how to sell, they don't know how the brains of a woman work. So when it comes to selling a handbag, most of the times it's a guy who's a tech guy who's decided that this is a great market and it's a big market, but not really understanding what a consumer wants. And so luxury commerce was born to basically give access to women and men all over the world to amazing handbags.
Wow, that's brilliant. And one thing you touched upon there about the counterfeit market, I've seen an interview of yourself where you actually spoke about it's not just about buying fake goods, because what these companies are doing, they're actually abusing children. I think you said, disabling their legs, so they have to sit there working constantly to make these, counterfeit bags. And that's not something everybody knows of, why you shouldn't be buying fake goods, because of the, people in the back who you're going to be supporting there.
Yeah, I always say when you buy, I mean, you might buy a purchase innocently, saying, "Oh, I'll just buy." You might take a visit to Turkey or go somewhere, I don't know, where you see a really good leather bag and you're like, "Oh wow," but this just looks. No one will know the difference. But you don't realize, like I said, it's a black market. So black market is underground money. Now, underground money funds all types of criminal proceeds, from money laundering to terrorism to child trafficking, human trafficking. So the example that I think people don't really fully understand is that these bags are made from in sweat factories. They're made they're made by children. You could buy a bag innocently thinking, oh, it's fine, the brand can deal with a counterfeit, they make lots of money, how does it really affect them? It's marketing for them. I'm like, well, actually no, because these bags could be made from a child that's been human trafficked away from their parents and forced to work, or sold even by their parents and forced to work in these sweatshop factories where their limbs are like tied back or broken, so that they can't go out and play. So all they can do is sit and work. And it sounds like it's scary, it's horrible, because you don't really know what's happening. And like I said, it's black market money, it's underground money, and there's all criminals that you're funding with this.
That's crazy. I actually didn't know that until I seen that interview, and then looked into it. And it's definitely one of those things, again, need to bring more awareness to. And just to ask as well, one thing we do like to do is just also give a background to the entrepreneur. So whilst we speak a bit more about Luxury Promise later in the interview, it'll be great if you could give us a background to yourself and growing up, because I think I've read in an interview again that you spoke about the influence of your father. He was in business, and how that potentially rubbed off on yourself as well.
Yeah, I mean, my father is Pakistani, that's where he came to London when he was about maybe 11 years old. And again, he was one of the first criminal barristers, Pakistani barristers in the UK. So that's kind of where the inspiration came to always study law. But and my mother is Anglo-Indian. And she was like obviously a great mum, really supportive of her children, irrespective of what they do. And my dad was very much, risk taker. He went and worked within being a well-known criminal barrister, and then went into work in building his own property company. And so it was very much ingrained. I always give this as an example. It was very much ingrained that like life is a bit like Monopoly. So he would walk down streets and be like, why not have a real Monopoly board, and you can just own out streets, and you can grow an empire. And from a young age, I was always taught the value of a pound, and how hard my dad really worked for his family. And in Asian culture, it's very much it's a generational thing, and it's the uncles and the aunties and the brothers and the sisters. It's all looked after by different family members. You go with your family. And I always saw my dad taking me out to building sites and walking around with him, and how hard he really worked. And that was really ingrained in my head from a young age, like a trading mentality. So for me, I always say how I'm a pure trader inside. So I see a bag and I sell it. So I buy and I sell, and I think of it as a trade rather than always an emotional attachment. And being independent. And I think the greatest gift that you can give any child is, why do our families, our ancestors come down to, they came to places like the UK to basically grow empires. And that was kind of how the business always grew. Like, it was always like, how do I grow this business? This is the mentality that was always in my head.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, it's one thing that is quite common we've seen on this show is that a lot of people had that instilled from them, whether it's their environment growing up or, just moving here and wanting to grow out their empires as well. And of course, you're very busy. You've got 3 sons, and your husband, I believe he's also entrepreneurial as well. How do you find that balance between your own business and your personal life?
I always say, if I knew the real formula, I think I'd be very, very, very successful. I'd be selling that formula off 100%. I think, it's a conversation I had with my husband this morning. We kill our bodies to do it. We put everything into our businesses. And because it's done with passion, if you love what you do, you wake up always excited to do it. And that's kind of a challenge that you give yourself. And it's cheap. For me, I learned from, I remember learning from my father and my mother, this is work hard, play. Well, not so much play. It was always work hard, hard, hard. That's pretty much. But teaching my children that as well, that, in life, if you want it, you have to go and get it. No one's going to give it to you. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're continually chasing what we want, and never be content, because you don't know what life can throw at you. So that's always knowing that life is a challenge, but enjoying what you do with the people you love. So everything I do it with my husband. I do it for my children, and I think my dad did that for his children and his wife and his kids. So it's kind of something that's in the blood.
Yeah, no, that's great to see. And you again mentioned earlier that it was instilled in you, and it's like a lot of Asian families to be go down the law path, or be a doctor. And we have these social norms which we're told that we have to live by. And again, in one of your previous interviews, I think that you read you saying not to fall in a box because society wants you there. Can you talk more about that, on how important it is for us to break our own social norms and the pressures that society puts on us?
I think it's natural for people to live in bubbles, and for me, it's always about breaking that bubble and removing yourself from it, and sometimes removing yourself out of the comfort zone. So I think an example is don't be a sheep. I always say to don't be a sheep. Just, you have to lead your own way. So that's, sometimes you have to take yourself and remove yourself from how you feel comfortable to be able to understand and explore the next step or the next journey. So, and I always say the biggest classrooms outside the 4 walls. So look beyond the 4 walls that you live in. Naturally, you see it happens. People grow up, they're born in an area, they grow up in an area, and they move down the road from their parents, and it's always, and I think this is where I always have to break it back to the word independent. Being independent is the strongest gift and the most important thing that any human can have for themselves. Whether it's your son, your daughter, your wife, your child, being independent is really important. And I think that's key of breaking that bubble, and sometimes removing yourself from your comfort zone to learn, because otherwise you will never learn.
Yeah, right. And it kind of ties in with that as well, but I see it in my own business when recruiting for clients now. They are trying to be more socially aware and socially conscious, and part of that is also diversity. And you're, of course, female founder and female businesswoman, and there's not enough female representation in this. How you found the challenges of being a female business owner, if you have found any, and what's your thoughts on that as a topic?
To be honest, I've been very lucky. I don't think it's really weird. There's two things I never look at, and then I realize I never look at myself being Asian female founder. I just don't. I just think I've got a good business. I know how hard it is to do, and I'm going to put everything in to make this successful. And I've got a good concept. It's a proven business model. So proving that was, and I never really looked at it as my sex, race, or gender, or anything like that. I've never really seen it as that, and I never put that as an obstacle. And I think people are really receptive. I think the world has changed. And again, it's removing myself from that bubble. I'm not going to people like, well, I'm a woman and I can do this and that. I never really do that. I'm like, well, man or woman, I've got a good business and I'm going to make this successful, and I know exactly what I want to do it. I know my business strategy. I see my path to exit, and that's really key for anything. And I'm lucky people have been really supportive. I think people typically don't really know what goes on in the background first. When you approach investors or you approach clients, it's always you're approaching them with a service or a product, and then later on they find out you're a wife and a mother, and they're like, oh wow, that's amazing. But because I don't see it as an obstacle, I don't let it become an obstacle.
Love that. No, that's great mentality to have. And hopefully people watching this who want to do their own thing can definitely take inspiration from that. And again, bringing it back to Luxury Promise, can you talk to us about that startup journey and any challenges you had, any of the sacrifices whilst building the initial blocks up?
I say every day is a challenge, and it is going to be for a long time. Every day I'm like, wow, okay, so you achieve one goal, and then you have to set yourself another goal, and you're like, okay, we've done this, okay, how do we get to that? And I think even the team knows when I walk in the morning, they're like, oh god, she's ready. She's ready. And I usually wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I have to just let it out in a chat, so the whole company knows about what plans there are and what we're going to do. And that's a key thing. Is I think when the challenges, I think, is just staying at it and remembering it's not a journey that happens overnight. It's a journey that can take years and years to happen. I didn't just walk in and wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm going to do Luxury Promise. It took me a while to get to that path that I wanted to actually go up and set Luxury Promise. It didn't just happen. I had to learn. I had to understand exactly what I wanted to do. And then I had to build up the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to do this by myself. This is what I want to do. This needs to be done. Why am I advising every company to do this? Why don't I just do it myself? Because I know exactly what needs to be done as a buyer. I am the person who buys my product. I'm the person that would sell my product. I am the consumer as well. So I need to build out this business. So I think the biggest challenge is actually getting up and doing it.
And with that, obviously you spoke about how you knew what you were doing, you were consulting other companies on it, and you had the idea for a while. What was the time frame between thinking of the idea and helping other people to actually saying, forget this, I'm going to go in, do it myself because I can do it myself?
About 9 years.
Oh wow! Oh really?
I was at university. I was at law school when I really was like started studying the market and really understanding and traveling the world. Like it wasn't something I literally did. It became a hobby to like travel the world wherever I'd go, even if it was on a holiday, even if it was like to like Miami, or if it was to Vietnam or Japan or wherever it was. I was traveling. I'd find a secondhand dealer and I'd meet with them. I'd have a coffee with them. I'd understand their market, who their client was, how they do business, how they authenticate. I really built up a book. I read and I looked at like the product and really understanding how the market was growing. And at the time, 9 years ago, there weren't many players out there in the market that actually did secondhand, and there wasn't anyone that was focused in certain you had them, but they were regionally focused within their own markets, their own domestic markets. So you didn't really have big international players at that time. And I remember thinking, this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know. Back then, we didn't even have WhatsApp. So things really, Facebook, it was MSN Messenger, things were really different back then.
MySpace.
Instagram wasn't around. Yeah, it was all of that before that, when it was all that before I had to realize, actually, this now needs to be done. And now I know exactly what needs to be done. So it's lots of learning on the way. There's lots of mistakes that are on the way, and there's lots of things that you learn from other people that you need to realize you need to implement. And every day I'm going to learn, every day I'm still going to make mistakes. But those are the things I think you have to always remember, is the fear of failing. People are always scared of failing or wanting it too perfect. So whenever I speak to friends who want to start businesses, they're like, yeah, but I'm going to have to spend £50,000 on the perfect website. I was like, no. Do you think Net-a-Porter had the best website? Now their website's, amazing, but they probably had to do a lot of stage testing, a lot of trial websites, go off different platforms before they got exactly what they wanted, and they still probably don't have exactly what they want. So it's to remember, you can't be perfect, and no one is perfect, and no one will ever be perfect. So we're always striving to find that perfection.
Love that. And again, just looking at some of the, your previous interviews and how passionately you spoke about luxury promise, two things that always, come to mind was you speak about the sustainability side and also implementing technology and AI and, really encompassing the future there. Can you talk to us about those two USPs of luxury promise?
Yeah, so what makes Luxury Promise unique is that we have this unique hybrid model, and that's about giving people different options in the way they sell. So we allow people to buy, sell, exchange, and repair, which no one has this hybrid model. And why we have this is because we have different women or different men that look differently on the way they sell. So some people might look to, for example, if you're a man, you might have a car. When you look to buy a car, the next car that you want, you either would want to do probably a part exchange, or you'd be like, no, I just want to outright sell it, and I don't really care, I'm not going to get a new car, and I'll think about the next car I want, or it's not with that same dealer that I'm looking at. So that's kind of how we've approached the handbag model, because it's very similar. People sometimes want to either just sell outright, or they might want to exchange it for another product, or they might really love a handbag that they really love, so we offer that repair. No one really offered that solution. And also the other reason why Luxury Promise was set up was because of access. Now, if you live in places like the Middle East or India or Asia or Singapore or Hong Kong, you can't buy from a European brand. You can't buy on a website from Chanel and get Chanel European prices. You have to go to Hong Kong or your local store to buy like a pair of Chanel trainers and be paying up to 40% more. Wow. And why should we be paying that in a digital era? Like, there's big pricing discrepancy. So part of the solution to Luxury Promise was being able to give people access and also the same price point, which we can do. All you have to do is go on a website and buy it, and we can ship the same way we would ship from UK to Manchester to UK to Hong Kong or UK to India. We allow that. And plus, now the stigma is slightly removed from secondhand. So people who are living in places like the Middle East, India or Pakistan, they don't have anywhere to go and sell their bags when they are done with it. So people are a lot more smarter on the way they shop and sell, and the sustainable, we're not contributing to any more production of products. We're telling people to shop smartly by saving money, shop safely by using a secure platform, and making sure the bag that you're buying is bought from somebody who knows how to authenticate a product, and shop have a good time shopping, because it's guilt-free shopping. You're saving money. I mean, who doesn't want to save money?
Yeah.
And you get a nice handbag at the end. And some of the bags that we have never been worn because somebody decided they didn't like it, or they just haven't worn it.
Yeah. And you mentioned, there were stigmas about this market, about buying pre-owned goods, and then now it is growing. Where do you see this market, or even your own business, being over the next 5 to 10 years?
Global. Yeah, we want a global business. We want to be the brand that everybody comes to sell their handbags or to buy their handbags. I mean, we had people from Mexico selling to us, and we're like, oh, you're selling all the way to London, sending your product all the way to London. because they believe that we understand how to buy and sell their handbags, and they want that experience. And we're removing that stigma by giving that person a luxury experience. And part of the reason why we did a fundraiser was to have a bricks and mortar concept, so they can come in, touch, feel, and try. They'll be served. We put the luxury back into secondhand, and telling people that they give a product a second life.
Yeah. In that strategy of building the platform to go further, be more global, how do you plan that out and then execute upon it?
Look, we live in a digital world, and social media is really an important platform that everybody should use and utilize.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that I think is really key, is utilizing it, working with people that are brand ambassadors that are all different, from all different walks of life. And that's where Luxury Promise is very much built on a community, and that's how you kind of get. Yeah, so there's lots that we need. There's lots to do. There's so many. You hear so many amazing stories from different people who have set up e-com platforms and how they've become global. And really, the mobile phone, this small device that we have in our hand, is such a powerful tool. And it's about, if you're looking to start up a business, it's about finding these businesses which can be done through this small device, and that everyone can see it and have an access to it. I mean, even I find myself sitting there watching silly TikTok videos. And my husband's like, "What are you watching?" And you see the amount of times I've watched someone do a slow walking dance, or like a slow walking to this song. I'm like, oh, I don't even know why I'm watching this, but I'm absorbed by it. And it's like, you need to be able to utilize this platform. So if you're looking to start up your own brand or your own business, think about ways which you can be seen and heard.
Yeah. And that brings me to something I wanted to speak to you about, because you've got a massive social media following. Luxury Promise, I think it's around 80,000 followers on Instagram. Your personal one's got about 23 to 25,000 alone. What tips can you give the audience or people building their brands and business to get to that level of consumers following you and building that base?
I think one thing that I've learned, and I know there's a big, there's also stigmas around influencers. And what I've learned around influencers actually is that they are their own brand, and they share their own story. It's all about telling people your story. And at the end of the day, it's about human connections. We're all humans. We all need to connect to people. So telling people what you're struggling with, what you're doing day to day, showing people behind the scenes is what I've always done. So people that have, like, the other day, some lady came into the store and was like, I followed you from even before you had Luxury Promise, and you were talking about how you wanted to do this business and how you were, and I was like, wow, really? And it was all from the back of me liking the picture of a salad. And I was like, I don't know why I liked a picture of a salad, but clearly either I was on a diet or I was hungry. And she was like, I came across your page because you liked the picture of my salad. And she said, I've been watching you from before you even when you had 2 kids, and your story and how you really love handbags and how you want to expand into this business, because I spoke about it. And I think it's always about being very open and transparent and sharing the journey, because at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have a story that needs to be told, and that's really key. And I think even with Luxury Promise, we show videos of all our products as well, and we're showing people styling it. You meet the different team members, you see their personality, you see their favorite pics of what they like, and everybody connects to us because we're all so diverse. We all have different tastes. Somebody might come to me because they really know I'm obsessed with the Hermes Birkin. Somebody might go to Grace because she really likes Dior, or Joanna because she really likes the different styles. There's so many different people in our group of at Luxury Promise that they get to see that. And I think it's sharing people's lifestyle is what they want to see, and being really real. At the end of the day, you have to be as real as you can be.
Yeah.
No fake goods, no fake people.
And with you gave a great background, on what to do, building your platform, and going about business. Can you talk about also, the importance of mindset and the softer skills which make someone a business person or entrepreneur, or generally pushing their own careers forward?
I think it's hunger. I think having that hunger mindset of like always wanting more, like never being satisfied, like even though I always get, you mark your journey and your milestone, you achieve that, and you're like, oh, I was going to be much more excited. Yeah. But I now know how to do, now I know how to get to the next level, which is a lot more harder, and this is just the beginning. So I think it's always having the mindset of just keep going, and it's not a big deal. If it doesn't work, it's fine. If it works, it's amazing. And I think I'm very relaxed in some, I'm relaxed and not relaxed in some ways. Like I don't overthink things, and I think overthinking and overcomplicating things makes it a lot more harder to achieve. And I think sometimes you just need to go with your gut. And I think I'm a big believer in always going with my gut. Whatever I've done in life is going with my gut. My hires are made with gut, the purchases are made with gut. And then obviously once you scale, is formalizing it and understanding what that formula is and replicating it. So when you're saying things like social media, like going over your social media and seeing what your audience really likes. So, making sure you go back to your board and sit back and say, hang on, let me see. If Instagram is how you're growing your business, go back to that and say, oh, okay, so how's this, what worked really well? What did my audience like? What do my customers like? And understanding your customers' needs and translating that into your business is really key in whatever you're doing, whether it's selling a pair of shoes, or you want to sell a clothing brand, or you want to sell iPhone cases. Finding out what your customer wants, because you can, this is why when I say using an analytical mindset to analyze what people want to get to the next level is really key.
Yeah, right. And just moving into the next part of this, it is something new that we've done, to engage our audience more, get more people's ideas. So I gave a bit of a blurb about yourself as our guest and asked people to throw in their own questions that we can ask you. The first question is from Alicia Hussain on LinkedIn, and she wants to know, what's your biggest tips on building your team and hiring?
Hiring is a very hard task, I have to say. I mean, I pointed out, building a team is finding people that share a similar vision and the end goal. So everyone has to know and being very transparent to what your vision is, and finding people that can connect with that vision, and bringing a skill set. So bringing in a team. As a founder, typically as CEOs at the beginning, when you set up your company, you're doing everything. You're doing your deliveries, you're doing your emails, you're doing the authentication, you're doing the marketing, and then realizing that you as a person can only do so much. So how do you create a big business? Is bringing in people that can value add. So when you're looking, firstly, analyze what you need in your team, and then going out and finding those team members to add value to that business, and making sure that they understand your vision and the end goal. So that's really key, I think. So for me, this is the reason why you do fundraising, and why I have got investment in, is to get the right people in to get my business to the next level, and getting that skill set that I'm missing. I mean, I like to say I have every skill, but I don't. And really realizing that I'm not an expert in marketing and analytics, and I can't build a website from scratch, but making sure I've got the right people in by my side. And I say we have very much a family culture in our business. It's like we say it's an LP family, like we grow this business together and we exit this business together. So really finding the people with the right skills is really key.
Yeah.
And following your gut.
Yeah, I love that you touched upon, the soft skills of people and, with the vision, because I find when hiring and recruiting for our clients, it's the candidates who are part of that vision, part of that journey, and have, that inner passion themselves that do better than someone with the best skills, but not right culturally. And, they're the ones who tend to stay there the longest as well. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Moving to the next question, Ali Duran from Instagram. What advice can you give to anybody looking to target more customers for a direct-to-consumer business on social media? I know you gave a few earlier, but was there anything else you could add from that?
I think really showcasing your product is really key, and telling customers and sharing your story about why they should become consume the product with you. So when we do, I mean, we have like a 90% sell-through rate on our Instagram stories, and it's because we're so clear with the detail that we know we would ask, what would we do if I was buying this bag? What would I ask us? And we're doing used handbags. You're going to say, okay, how old is the bag? Is the bag got any wear to it? Does the bag have a stain inside? What does the bag come with? What does the bag look like on? Because they can't try it. So those are the things that we share in our stories and our social media. So I think understanding how your product will relate to your consumer and making sure that you use that messaging in your marketing.
Okay. And next question's from Sunpreet Gill on Instagram. How did you organize your time whilst having a family and starting your own business alongside it?
I honestly sometimes don't know how I organize my time. I think it's just discipline at the end of the day. It's having routine is important as well, and understanding that, you know, for me, I have help. So I have help. My sisters and my family have always been around, and not being afraid to ask for help. I'd like to say I do it all, but that's not the case. You know, you do have support from family members. I have a very supporting husband and mum and sisters who, like, if I need them to pick my kids up from a school run, I'll be like, yeah, can you do auntie duties, and then make them feel guilty when they refuse it. That's really key, making family members feel guilty that they're not helping you build your vision. And also just really being focused, and not, a lot of times you can waste your time on not doing things. And I actually don't, as much as people believe it, I don't really have much of a social life. My social life is either to do with my business or my family. So in my spare time, on my time out, when I finish work, I go back to the family, I go back to the kids, or if I'm doing anything social related to it, it'll be business related. So you really narrow who you spend your time, and making sure you have the right time for the right people.
Great. And we've got two questions in one. This is quite a good one. Amrit Singh, firstly, can you give advice on getting investment? And secondly, what was the best social media platforms for you when selling to customers and building your brand?
So what was the first part?
If you could talk about how you got
Investors.
investment. Yeah.
Firstly, understanding the investment scene is really key, because I've had friends who are like, how do you get investment? So I think really understanding, and maybe, I mean, for me, I was very lucky because my husband understands the finance world, so he very much knew how to build like setting up your company, having goals, creating the business plan, and really understanding what your model is and what your brand is and what your vision is and how you're solving a problem. And this is why, when I spoke to you earlier, is you have a business, and it's not just about having a business, it's about what makes you unique and what makes you different from everyone, what's the problem you're solving with your business, and how you go to market with your business, and where are your market, what's the market you want to target. Is it the world? Obviously everyone wants to target the world, but firstly we started off as a UK centric business. We then tapped into the Middle East when we could see that's where our consumers were coming from. So really growing with where our customers are coming from, and really understanding later on. That's why you do staged funding. So we always say you do, get your business plan ready, understand what you want to do, and selling and pitching to friends and family. So typically investment starts with your friends, friends and fools round. So your investment comes from the people that really know your vision. And so all my friends and family knew that I loved handbags. I looked at handbags, I want to do this. So getting the backing from that round first, and then moving on to the next set of investors. And then you can look at, I mean, for us, we were very lucky. My first came from friends and family, and then my second came from a client. So she loved the business so much that she really loved the experience, and she could see that what we were doing was really missing, and she believed in the vision of what Luxury Promise was going to come. And so you're always pitching. I'm pitching right now.
Yeah.
And like always pitching. If I'm on a plane, I feel sorry for you. Whoever sits next to me, be prepared. I will pitch everything to you. I've even got the team members the other day. I've got a meeting now because she's just pitched to someone. You're always pitching. Like
Yeah.
the art of pitching is really good. And actually, you know what's taught me how to talk pitch really well is Instagram stories. Learning how to talk in front of a camera, I've learned it from Instagram stories, because I don't know who's not listening to me, but I can just talk away, and it really gives the articulation and allows you to know how to send your message across. So go to your existing network for investment first. Always tap into your network. That's all it's all about, networking at the end of the day.
Okay. Yeah, and that's it. You know, every conversation's a sell, you know, as they say. And this is quite a short one. The second part of that was what's the one best, you know, social media platform you could advise to utilize for your business?
Instagram. I mean, for us, Instagram is really key because everybody's on that, and it depends on who your audience is. So TikTok's amazing, but TikTok for us is a really younger audience. So they're not going to, it probably won't convert and generate into a customer. So it really depends on knowing who your audience is, basically, and the demographics of your audience. So we'd say our audience is typically 25 plus, maybe even older. So, you know, really understanding who your audience is and making sure you're using that platform to utilize it. And also YouTube for me is really key. We have a YouTube channel, but when I look at influencers, I look for influencers typically who have YouTube channels, because they've got a more of a dedicated following. So they really buy into what they're doing. They really love the brand that they're creating or the products they work for. There's an interest in what they're doing. So that really finding and connecting, if you're looking at, you know, working with influencers, making sure that influencer understands and has that target audience as the same audience as your customer is.
Great tips. And last part of this is just a quick 5-question quick fire round. We try and tailor it personally to the person we're speaking to. We can answer it within a word and a sentence. First question.
I've got too many words.
Yeah, we'll probably have to extend it.
yeah, you might have to give me some 10 words something.
First one is, what's the one most important skill of yours which has helped you to date?
Sales. Is that a word? Yeah, sales. Is that a word?
Yeah. That's it. Secondly, would you advise people to follow their money or follow their passion?
That's a tough one. Passion.
What is your favorite luxury brand?
Hermes.
If you could own one luxury item which you haven't owned yet, what would it be?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. A crocodile Hermes Birkin. That's 3 words, but
yeah. Slide that in. And finally, who's had the biggest impact on your career to date?
Oh, there's too many people. Can I give 2 people? Probably my dad and my husband.
Yeah, great. Quality. Well, look, really excited again to have had you on. It was a great interview and great questions. For anybody who wants to find out more about yourself or your business, where can they go to find you?
You can follow me at Luxury Promise.
Yeah.
You'll get to see us talking away, selling some handbags. And yeah, if there's any tips and advice that you would like to see more of, I'd love to get feedback too. So yeah.
Wicked, that's great. Well, yeah, thanks again for everybody for listening. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and give us a follow. And look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.